Welcome back to our last podcast in our CS01 series. So this is now Phishing and You. I know it's not that exciting, but phishing is a neighbor of social engineering. The difference is phishing is a form of email attack where a bad actor will impersonate an individual or organization. This course will focus on how to identify and action report phishing emails. Now, recently, many companies have been hit by ransomware attacks that have cost the firm millions of dollars. Often, these attacks happen via data leaks or phishing attempts. Now, there's a link to read more about phishing in the content material. Now, what is spear phishing? Now, spear phishing is targeted attacks to a specific target, usually someone high up in the organization, which is called whaling, or that has specific access to systems. Spear phishing can target individuals that are at entry level, so sometimes those individuals are easier to exploit due to lack of higher level knowledge of the organization. The key differentiator from spear phishing to regular phishing is the fact that the user is specifically targeted. Now, what is smishing? Now, that's smishing, S-M-I-S-H-I-N-G. Now, this is easy to remember because the S-M-S in smishing, S-M-I-S-H-I-N-G, the SMS stands for short message service, or simply put, a cell phone textual message. These are fairly common for cell phone users to receive and can be reported directly through the message often. You can do that with iPhone. Now, most of the time, these messages claim to be from a trusted entry such as a bank or a loan provider. Now, smishing is pretty common. I would say that you'll see smishing a lot. You may have seen it on your cell phone. You'll get these random texts, plus 30, 40. You went past a checkpoint for, a toll gate that you never went past. Plus, you have a package that showed up that from Walmart that you need to click here. Don't click any of that stuff. That's all smishing. Now, what about the sequel? The sequel to smishing, vishing. This is where it gets a little bit more confusing, but vishing is somewhere between social engineering and smishing, and you like add into that um just a basic scam call. Now, users are often called on digital services or VoIP, voice over IP services that are not connected to the POTS or plain old telephone service. Now, that's with the goal of profiting from off the victim. Now, usually the bad actors in this scenario claim to be from government or federal agencies. Now, I don't have a lot of experience with vishing other than, possibly the social engineering that I mentioned in my last video. That could be considered vishing because most of those people, I just told a story in the last video how I'm an IT technician and I've been receiving calls from a bad actor. And this person is technically vishing because they're probably using a voice over IP protocol to call me. So technically, not only is that social engineering, but it's vishing. Now, how do you prevent smishing or vishing in an IT setting? You want to always be wary of those that have no caller ID. If someone is in a hurry, slow down. Make sure that you are communicating clearly. Communicating clearly. If you're unsure, you should always escalate to your security person. Now, when I say security person, I mean cybersecurity person on site and immediately disconnect the call. There's no harm in that. I don't think any supervisor or manager will be upset at you disconnecting a call that you thought was vishing, smishing, or phishing. Now, if there's some way to verify that that person wasn't real, call back the firm, call back the individual they are pretending to be, great. And you want to make sure to delete and report unusual text messages, even if appearing to be from trusted sources. Never click on links in text messages in general, and especially if you didn't request the message in any way. Clicking on links is just a bad idea unless it's from something you're used to that you know. And even then, scrutinize those messages that come in. Scrutinize those because you never know when phishing will happen. Now, if someone that claims to know you is calling from an untrusted or enlisted number, hang up and call that person you know back directly. This helps you to avoid being the victim of fraud and also let your friend or coworker know that they have their information. Now, while I think the lesson did cover everything pretty well here, some things I'd like to say about phishing. I did talk about a little bit before about how we have this company at where we work, KnowBe4. and they actually send out these sort of super realistic phishing messages. But phishing messages are never that realistic. They've gotten better, they're getting good, but really you should be able to tell. One way that you can tell is to check the email header. Um, sometimes checking the email header can be very helpful in discovering if that's the correct email address. You can look up there. Sometimes they spoof it, but that's not always the case. They're not always able to do that. So a lot of the times maybe they'll put the real email address in there, but then it'll get spoofed to the fake email address, and you'll see that in the message header. So that's something to think about when you look at phishing too. Now, we didn't cover that in this class before, and that's not on the exam, but looking in the message header is something that I would give as an extra tip here, just because if you're looking at phishing, that's something you're going to want to check. Also, check the subject line, check for grammar, punctuation, and spelling is another great thing to check for on phishing emails. And one last tip I'll kind of throw in for IT pros. You can, if you have someone you report a link to you and you're not sure, so you're taking a help desk ticket and you're like, hey, I don't know if someone sends a ticket to the help desk is like, hey, I don't know if this link is real. You can do your OSIT, INT, your open source intelligence, and try to figure that out. But sometimes what you can do is you can actually click, not click the link, but right click and copy the link into a notepad. And that will show you kind of the path of what they're trying to get the person to click. And oftentimes you'll see it'll look legitimate for a second, but there'll be something off about the website, or it'll be Wells Fargo with 2 G's, or it'll be, Wells with capital L's that are like different fonts. So these are some other things that I thought I would mention. This is more advanced stuff that we weren't really able to cover within the scope of this class, but I wanted to mention it here. And I hope you enjoyed Phishing and You, and I hope you enjoyed this podcast series for CS01, and I hope you all are having a great day.